Hey everyone. In this video, I wanted to address a question that popped up on the Trailblazer community from a user whose information I've redacted from this page just so that he can keep this information private, delete this if he wants to at some point, and just so that his information is not being posted anywhere else. But the question he asked was, I need a flow screen that has two elements, a dependent pick list and a data table. This I can do. What I can't figure out is how to dynamically update the data table in real time based on user selection in the pick list fields. Is the data fetcher from unofficial Salesforce still the best solution, or do any of the recent updates related to collection filters or reactive formulas do the same thing? And so right off the bat, I want to address where data fetcher would be the correct package. And that's going to be if you need search as you type function, or if you are working with a large data set, or if you're working with anything that is unbounded, or if you're working with multiple dynamic categories, data fetcher or a custom Lightning Web Component is definitely going to be the solution to give you that real-time filtering ability. Now, with that said, if you're working with a smaller category pick list or anything like that, and you're working with maybe a smaller data set, there are some native flow solutions that you may want to look at. And I've put together a couple demos for those. And there's one that's going to be based off of a smaller data set. And then there's one that is for maybe a slightly larger data set. And then if you get into a extensively large data set, that's the point that you would move on to data fetcher or a custom Lightning Web Component. So with that, if we jump into my developer environment here, I've got 17 products configured, and we're going to be filtering on the product family. So I've configured a few products with the product family as generators, and then a few of them as installation, and then a few of them as service. And so if we jump right into this flow here, this is going to be for that small data set. What this is doing is you're triggering this from the opportunity. And so it's passing the record ID through our variable here, right here. So we just go ahead and create this off the bat with the flow. And then it's getting the opportunity from that record ID. It's checking if it has a price book. If it has it, then it's just assigning that to our price book variable. And if there is no price book on it already, then we're launching a screen so that you can then select that price book. And then it's updating the opportunity to have that price book. And then it's assigning that to the same variable that this path would, just so that we have that regardless of the outcome it takes from this has price book decision. Not the main purpose of the flow, but that's something I always build into these select product screen flows. And then we're getting the available products. So this is looking at that price book ID from our variable, and then making sure that that product is active, because we may have products in that price book that just aren't active. And so we're filtering that down. And then as soon as we've grabbed all of the products from the selected price book or the price book that was already on that opportunity, we loop through every one of those one at a time, and then we're sorting it by the category or the product family. And so if it is in the generators product family, it's adding it to the generators variable. If it's in installation, it's adding it to our installation variable. And if it's service, it's adding it to our service variable. And then from there, it's pulling up this screen here. And what we have here is we've just put a separate data table for each one of those product categories. And so that's why I say this is for a smaller data set. We'll run this through debug so that we can see what that looks like. But right here, I've got a record ID for just a random opportunity in here that already has a price book selected. So as soon as I hit run, it goes ahead and defaults it to generators. And I can see these items right here. If I click on installation, it filters it. If I click on service, it filters it again immediately. And so if we jump back to our flow canvas here and come down to that screen element, all we've done again is just add these data tables, and then we applied a filter under the component visibility so that it only shows this data table if the product category is generators, or it only shows the installation table if the product category is installation. And so this definitely isn't something that you would want to do if you're working with a much larger data set with multiple categories, probably more than 5 categories. This kind of goes off the books. But if you are working with a smaller data set like this, then something like this could be manageable. Now with that, there is a more dynamic flow approach, and this is where you may have more than 3 categories. Maybe for up to 5 to 10, you can do a flow like this. And so we'll do debug again on the same opportunity just to see what this looks like. Again, this one already has a price book selected, so it's gonna go down this path here. And so if we click run, it's going to default to no product family selected. It goes ahead and pre-fills this with all of our products. And then we can filter this down to generators. And then I do have to click a button for apply filter, and it's going to narrow it down to only our products in the generator product family. Or if I click on installation, it does not apply automatically, but if I hit apply filter, it does filter it dynamically. So this one is a little bit more scalable because what we're doing in this case, and I didn't mean to back out of that, what we're doing in this case is it's getting the opportunity same as the other flow, and then it is checking for the price book exactly the same way that the other flow was. And then when it gets to the select product screen, there's only one data table. There's not multiple being filtered by the category that you've got selected. But what is happening is it's running a subflow. So we added an action button, and just so you can see how you would add that onto a screen flow, it's this action button component. And the subflow here is this get filtered products subflow. And so what this is doing is it's an auto launch flow. And this is also checking to see if the product, if the screen on that previous screen flow has a family selected. If there's no family, it's getting all products, and then it's assigning them to our filtered products table variable. And that way, this is running immediately when you pull up that screen. And so if you haven't selected a family yet, it's showing you all products. But then as soon as you've selected something and hit apply filter, it is running this subflow. And then also, we do need to make sure when we back out of this, we'll click back into this and go to advanced from this action button. We need to make sure that refresh inputs to incorporate changes elsewhere in the flow is applied, because then once you run this flow, it needs to refresh the data table. If you don't have this selected and you click apply filter, it's running the flow and it's updating that variable, but it's not refreshing the screen. And that's where you would have to go previous and then next again, and then you would see the new components. And so this is an option that's a little bit more scalable, but it's not as dynamic because now you have to select your variable here and then click the apply filter button to launch that subflow. Whereas on our other flow here, you just have to select the picklist value and then the screen immediately filters. But again, if you're working with more than 3, maybe more than 5 categories, this becomes quite a large flow where it has to sort through so many things. And again, it also is going to depend on your data quantity because, or your product quantity in those price books, because if it is running through hundreds or thousands of products in that price book, then this is going to take a long time to run, and it's definitely going to eat up some of your flow credits. So that is the overview. And I'll post a separate video at some point walking through how to actually build a flow like this. But I wanted to just address where you would use the unofficial Salesforce package, where you would use a flow like this with the dynamic filters for different data tables, and where you would use a subflow option, and just present those as options. And that's it. Thanks, guys.